Am I the asshole for cutting off my entire family after they blamed me for my nephew's death, even though I was the one who tried to save him? Hey, before we move on to the video, please subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. It will help us create more interesting videos for you. Thanks. I've always been the outsider in my family. Not the kind that gets disowned or screamed at. Nothing dramatic like that. Just the one people look through. The one they laugh off when he tries to speak. I'm the youngest by 5 years, and I grew up being compared to my older sister Melissa, who always knew how to keep our parents happy. She was the responsible one, the smart one, the beautiful one, the one who did everything right. And I was there. When I was a kid, it was little things. She got a car on her 16th birthday. I got one that barely ran when I turned 18. She got praised for getting into a state college. I got a lecture about wasting my time studying computers, even though I ended up making more money than she ever did. She had a wedding with 200 guests and a string quartet. I was told that if I ever got married, they'd help me pay for a simple courthouse ceremony. I used to think it was all in my head, that I was just bitter or too sensitive. But eventually, the patterns became impossible to ignore. Still, I went along with it. I kept my head down. I didn't cause waves. I moved out at 20, rented a crappy apartment, and worked while finishing my IT degree. Got hired by a decent firm. I now work remotely, make a solid income, and keep to myself. I visit for holidays, bring gifts, nod along to conversations I'm not part of, and leave before the arguing starts. The only thing that made those visits bearable was Liam. Liam was Melissa's oldest son. He was 6 years old, full of energy, always talking about dinosaurs, and weirdly obsessed with tools. I was the only adult in the family who really talked to him like he mattered. When everyone else was cooing at his little brother or gossiping in the kitchen, I'd be on the floor with Liam helping him build things with plastic screws and bolts. He called me Uncle Fix-It. Even though Melissa and I barely had a relationship, she talked to me like I was a dim-witted intern. I came around just to see Liam. That's why I said yes when she invited me to a family barbecue at her house last June. I didn't want to go. I never wanted to go to these things. But she texted me a photo of Liam holding a cardboard sign that said, "Come to our barbecue or I'll cry." And I couldn't say no to that. So I packed up a few bags of chips, grabbed a cooler, and made the 2-hour drive. Melissa's house was exactly what you'd expect. Suburban, oversized, spotless. Her husband, Jeff, was standing by the grill when I got there, beer in hand, already 3 drinks and judging by his red face. The backyard had a pool, a new deck, and an inflatable slide the size of a small building. Inside the house, the adults were already congregating around the dining table, gossiping, drinking, laughing like they were auditioning for a commercial. Melissa's friends were there too. The Pinterest mom, types who wear matching sundresses and use baby voices with their kids. I found Liam out back. He launched into a monologue about a super rare dinosaur bone he'd found in the sandbox and dragged me over to help him dig it out. We played until my knees were killing me. At some point, Melissa came out and asked if I could help with the grill because Jeff was too buzzed to flip a burger. I said sure. I always said sure. So I stood there, flipping meat while keeping an eye on the kids. Liam was in the shallow end of the pool with 3 other kids, all wearing floaties or arm rings. It was a nice day. Hot, but breezy. Nothing felt wrong. At one point, I realized we were out of foil and went inside to grab some. I told one of the other kids to stay seated, told Liam I'd be right back. I was gone for maybe 90 seconds. I know because I checked later. When I came back out, I noticed right away that something was off. The other kids were still in the water, playing. But Liam was face down in the deep end. For a split second, I thought he was just playing some weird underwater game. Then I saw how still he was. Everything after that moved in slow motion. I screamed. I jumped into the water. I pulled him out and laid him on the deck. His lips were blue. He wasn't breathing. I started CPR. I'd only learned it a few years earlier when my job offered a certification course. Chest compressions. Breaths. More compressions. I kept going. I was crying and shouting his name, trying not to panic, willing him to open his eyes. Somebody called 911. Melissa came running outside, screaming. She grabbed him away from me like I was the one who hurt him. The ambulance came. Paramedics took over. They pushed me out of the way like I didn't exist. I followed them to the hospital, soaking wet and shaking. I waited outside the ER doors, pacing. It was too late. Liam was gone. He was 6 years old. And I was the one who pulled him out of the water. I was the one who tried to save him. But that's not how they remember it. Not even close. The day after Liam died was a blur. I barely slept. I kept replaying the moment I found him over and over. I remembered every detail, the smell of chlorine, the sound of the burgers sizzling on the grill, the way the sunlight bounced off the water, and none of it made sense. How could it have happened so fast? How could I have missed it? I couldn't stop thinking about whether I could have done more. I stayed at a hotel that night because I couldn't face going back to my apartment just yet. I didn't want to be alone, but I couldn't be around my family either. Melissa and Jeff hadn't spoken to me since the hospital. My parents had barely looked at me. Nobody told me what the funeral arrangements were. Nobody asked how I was doing. The only person who sent me a message was my cousin Rachel. It was short. Just, "I know you tried. Don't let them rewrite it." At the time, I didn't understand what she meant. I would later. The funeral was 2 days later. I wasn't sure if I should even go. That sounds insane, I know. But nobody told me the location or time. I found out from a post Melissa's friend made on Facebook. When I showed up, I felt like I had crashed the event. People avoided my eyes. Melissa didn't say a word to me. Jeff stood by the casket like a statue and wouldn't even nod in my direction. I sat in the back row. I didn't cry. Not because I didn't want to. I couldn't. There was a block in my chest, something heavy and sharp that wouldn't budge. I just stared at Liam's photo. The one Melissa had blown up and put on an easel. He was wearing a little hard hat and holding a toy wrench. I'd taken that picture. I left before the burial. I couldn't take the weight of the stairs anymore. It wasn't grief. It was blame. It was disgust. At first, I told myself I was imagining it, that they were just in shock, just overwhelmed. But within a week, the coldness became unmistakable. My mother called me. Her voice was flat. "You should have been watching him more closely." It wasn't a question. It wasn't said in anger. It was just a fact as far as she was concerned. I told her I was. I told her I'd only gone inside for barely a minute. She sighed like she was exhausted. "I know. But you were the only sober one, Daniel. You were supposed to be responsible. Like the others weren't adults. Like I was some hired lifeguard they could all abandon their kids with." My dad called a day later. He said, "We're all trying to heal, but you have to admit you made a mistake." I didn't know what to say. I sat there with my mouth open, listening to the man who taught me to ride a bike imply that I killed a child by being careless. I started getting texts from family members I hadn't spoken to in months. Polite, but unmistakably sharp. "We're all devastated. We just wish you'd taken better precautions. Melissa said she asked you to keep a close eye on the pool. Next time, don't let the kids out of your sight." That's all I'll say. Next time. Like I was being given a warning before the next kid died on my watch. I tried to explain. I tried to remind people that I was the one grilling, that nobody else was outside, that I told Melissa I wasn't comfortable being the only one keeping an eye on so many children. Nobody wanted to hear it. They were too deep in grief. And grief needed a target. Melissa, especially, didn't want to hear it. She didn't answer my calls. She didn't respond to my texts. But she posted cryptic quotes online. Things like, "The people who smile in your face can be the ones who destroy your world." Or, "True evil wears a familiar face." A week later, she posted a photo of Liam with the caption, "He trusted you." That one shattered me. My cousin Rachel messaged me again. "You need to stop trying to explain yourself. They don't care. You're easier to hate than each other." She was right. Melissa and Jeff had been inside drinking. If they admitted that, they'd have to carry the guilt of knowing they were off laughing and slurring words while their son slipped under the water. They needed a villain. And I was there. It was subtle at first, but it spread fast. I stopped being invited to gatherings. I heard from another cousin that my name had been removed from the family vacation email thread. My parents didn't invite me for Thanksgiving. No explanation. No invitation. Just silence. I called them to ask why. My dad answered, "I think it's best if you sit this one out." That was it. "No, we love you. No, we're still grieving. Just sit this one out." I sat alone in my apartment that Thanksgiving. I ate a rotisserie chicken and drank 2 glasses of bourbon while watching reruns. And I thought about Liam. I thought about the last thing he ever said to me. He'd been in the pool, splashing, yelling, "Watch this, Uncle, fix it," as he tried to swim across the shallow end. I'd clapped and told him, "You're a natural kid." That's the memory they were erasing. That's the version of me they wanted to destroy. They weren't just mourning their son. They were burying me right alongside him. 3 months went by. I didn't hear a word from Melissa, Jeff, or my parents. Not one. Birthdays passed. Holidays passed. And I sat with this sick, sour feeling in my chest that wouldn't go away. I was still working remotely, still doing everything right on paper, paying my bills, finishing projects on time, even going to the gym, but I felt like a ghost. I'd walk into a grocery store and wonder if someone was going to stop and whisper that I was that uncle. I'd had panic attacks before, but never like this. Sometimes they'd come out of nowhere. I'd just be making coffee or folding laundry, and suddenly I'd be back in that moment, kneeling by the pool, Liam's body limp in my hands, the sound of my own screaming echoing in my ears. I tried therapy. I told the guy everything. He said I was experiencing trauma, survivor's guilt, misplaced responsibility, the works. I nodded. I wanted to believe it would help. But nothing could erase what my own family thought of me. Then in early October, something strange happened. I got an email from a name I didn't recognize, Mike_Anderson88@gmail.com. Subject line, footage, June 17th. I almost deleted it. I thought it was spam, but I opened it. The message was short. Don't know if this helps. My outdoor cam catches a view of your sister's backyard. Thought you should see this. There was a Dropbox link. I stared at it for a long time. My heart started racing. Part of me thought it was a prank. Or worse, maybe it would show something I missed. Maybe I'd seen myself walking off for too long, or missing some obvious danger sign. But I clicked it. The video was from a security camera mounted on the back of a neighbor's garage. It pointed toward Melissa's yard at an angle, wide enough to catch most of the pool and the back deck. There was no sound, but the timestamp was clear. I saw myself at the grill. I saw the kids playing. I saw myself walk into the house. And I counted. 1, 2, 3. I watched the seconds crawl by. At 1 minute and 36 seconds, I reappeared with the foil in my hand. 96 seconds. That was all. In the time I was inside, I could see Jeff through the back window. He was in the kitchen, tipping back a bottle with one hand, laughing with someone out of frame. Melissa appeared at one point, dancing stupidly and swaying into him. They weren't watching the kids. Nobody was. And then I saw it, blurry but unmistakable, Liam climbing up the pool ladder and jumping back in. He went under. No splashing. No waving. Just disappeared. I froze the footage there. It hit me like a tidal wave. The grief. The fury. The goddamn injustice of it. 96 seconds. That's all it was. I had been outside with them for nearly half an hour, grilling and keeping an eye on everyone while the responsible parents got drunk and vanished. And for 96 seconds, I stepped inside to grab foil and came back to find a nightmare. And now my life was ruined for it. I stared at that frame of Liam frozen in the air, right before the moment everything went to hell, and I broke down. I hadn't cried in months. I couldn't stop now. I don't know how long I sat there. When I finally composed myself, I watched the rest of the footage. I saw myself diving in, pulling Liam out, performing CPR, Melissa running outside, screaming. The footage cut off about 10 minutes later, but it was enough. I had proof. Not just that I wasn't neglectful, but that I was the only one trying to protect those kids while everyone else got wasted and acted like it was someone else's job. The camera had caught the broken latch on the gate too. The one that had been rusted and dangling. The one I'd told Jeff about earlier that day. The one he waved off, saying, "They'll be fine, they're not toddlers." I downloaded the video. I watched it again. And again. And then I started thinking. I didn't want revenge. Not in the movie kind of way. No one would go to jail. There wouldn't be a dramatic courtroom scene where I exposed them. But I wanted the truth to exist. Not just for me, but for Liam. They had buried him under silence and shame, and then blamed the only person who actually gave a damn. I didn't want to let them keep doing it. I opened a blank email. I attached the video file. And I wrote one sentence. I think you should see what really happened. I sent it to my parents, Melissa, and Jeff. I didn't say anything else. No explanations. No apologies. No argument. Just the truth. It was out of my hands now. I didn't expect them to respond immediately. I told myself they probably wouldn't respond at all. And for a while, they didn't. For 3 days, I heard nothing. Then my phone lit up at 2:14 a.m. with a message from Melissa. "How dare you do this to us?" That was all it said. No context. No name. Just rage and accusation, like I had broken some sacred rule. I didn't reply. The next day, my father called. I let it go to voicemail. He left a long, shaky message saying, "We're all hurting. Daniel, you didn't need to throw this in everyone's face." Throw what in everyone's face? The truth? I didn't answer. I wasn't ready. By the end of the week, things got louder. My cousin Rachel told me the video had made its way through the extended family. People were talking. Some were stunned. Others were furious at Melissa and Jeff, not me. One of my aunts reached out with a clipped apology. I should have asked more questions. "I'm sorry, Daniel. I didn't know what to do with that." It felt like someone handing you a tissue after watching you bleed out for months. Then Jeff called. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. He sounded tired. Older. "Look," he said, "I know I was drinking too much. I've been trying to cut back. Melissa's mad as hell that you sent that video, but I watched it. And I know. Okay? I know we messed up. I waited. Nothing else came. You know what hurts?" I said. "Not that you messed up. That you let me rot while you sat with the truth in your pocket." He sighed heavily. "We lost our son. And I lost him too," I said. "But you made me your scapegoat. You made sure everyone saw me that way. Like I killed him." He didn't argue. He just whispered, "I'm sorry," and hung up. That was the only apology I got from him. Melissa didn't apologize at all. 2 weeks later, I got an email from her. Long, frantic, full of emotional landmines. She didn't admit to anything. Not really. She said things like, "I was out of my mind with grief. You were the only one who looked like you had control. I didn't know how to face what really happened." She told me she'd been going to therapy, that Jeff had moved out, that their youngest son had started having night terrors and was asking where his uncle went. And then she asked, "Can we talk?" That was the moment I realized something important. I didn't want to. I wasn't angry, not the explosive kind of angry I used to feel when I thought about the whispers and the betrayal and the way I'd been exiled from my own family like some kind of monster. What I felt now was something quieter, more dangerous. Detachment. I had already grieved the loss of Liam. Now I was grieving the family that had never truly seen me, never protected me, never loved me in any way that mattered when it counted most. Melissa wanted to talk. My parents wanted to rebuild. A few cousins wanted to start fresh. But I was done. Not out of spite. Not to hurt them. But because I mattered too. And I wasn't going to live the rest of my life chained to their guilt and expectations. So I wrote back to Melissa. "I'm glad you're getting help. But I don't think there's anything left for us to talk about. I don't wish you pain, but I also don't want to be part of your healing process. I have my own life now, and I'm going to live it." I sent similar messages to my parents when they eventually reached out again. Short, clear, firm. I changed my number. Moved to a new apartment in a different city. I started seeing a new therapist who didn't treat me like a victim, but like someone who had survived something and could build from it. I even joined a community maker space, something I'd always wanted to do. I spent weekends helping kids learn how to build things. One of them, a quiet little boy who reminded me a little too much of Liam, started calling me Fix-It Dan. It broke me the first time I heard it. Then it healed something too. A year passed. One day, I drove back to the town where it all happened. Not to see anyone. Not to make a statement. I just went to the cemetery. Liam's grave was tucked in the far corner, under an old maple tree. I brought a small toolbox, plastic, child-sized, the kind he used to play with, and placed it next to the headstone. I stood there for a long time. "I'm sorry," I said. Not because I was guilty, but because he deserved more from all of us. "I miss you. I hope you know I tried." I didn't cry. Not this time. I just stood there until the wind picked up and the leaves started to fall. Then I turned around and walked away. I didn't look back, because I was done being their scapegoat. And I was done letting grief chain me to people who didn't deserve my silence anymore. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button.